Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this press conference. On Friday, one of our CATS bus drivers, Mr. Ethan Rivera, was in the performance of his duties to the city of Charlotte when he was tragically shot. He would later pass away as a result of being shot. All of us here at the CMPD wish to express our condolences to the family of Mr. Rivera and also express our gratitude for his service to the city of Charlotte. Today we're going to be talking about his tragic case as well as a number of other recent aggravated assaults in our downtown division. So we are going to start with the Chief Executive Officer of CATS, Mr. John Lewis.
Thank you, Lieutenant. When CATS bus operator Ethan Rivera clocked in for his shift on Friday, February 11th, no one knew it would be his last. Mr. Rivera was a public servant and had been a part of the CATS family for just over 1 year. Ethan came to us during the height of the pandemic, and that speaks volumes to his character and his work ethic. But more than that, Ethan was a loving son, brother, and father. And unfortunately, he was the victim of a tragic and senseless act of violence. No words can express the depth of this tragedy and the impact that it will have on Ethan, his family, his friends, and the CATS family. We grieve with his family. CATS and our bus contractor, Transit Management of Charlotte, are providing mental health resources and counseling to staff and colleagues during this difficult time. And we thank our riders and community members for their outpouring of condolences. Thank you.
We're now going to bring up Captain Joel McNally, who commands our homicide unit. Captain.
Good afternoon. As Lieutenant Fishback shared with you, at about 9:30 on Friday evening, we received calls of a shooting in the 500 block of West Trade Street. And there we discovered that there had been a road rage incident involving a private vehicle and a CATS bus. And that incident resulted in the bus driver, Ethan Rivera, being shot and critically wounded. Because of the nature of his initial injuries, we immediately brought in our homicide team to work this investigation. And those detectives have been working tirelessly and since Friday, trying to solve this senseless crime. This continues to be an open and active investigation. We're working very closely with CATS, and we've had their full cooperation in everything that we've been doing. We're hoping in the next day or so to be able to release some more specific details about the suspect vehicle, and hopefully some photos or video to go along with that. What we want you to know today is that any little piece of information that you may have, if you were downtown Friday night around 9:30, if you saw something, we need to know that information. We need you to call Crime Stoppers, 704-334-1600. There's no piece of information that's too small. Every little thing, anything you know might be the little piece that helps us solve this tragic crime. If you'd like to speak directly to a homicide detective, you can call our TIPS line, and that number is 704-432-TIPS. Crime Stoppers calls can be made anonymously, but if you do want to speak directly to a homicide detective, you can call that TIPS line. As additional information comes to light, we will be putting that information out through our Public Affairs Office. Thank you.
Commander of the Central Patrol Division, Brad Koch. Aggravated assaults that have also taken place downtown. Captain.
Thank you, Steve. Side of Mr. Rivera is not the only case of road rage leading to violence in the last week in the Central Division. Now, these other cases involve individuals shooting paint guns or BB guns or simply pointing a firearm at all agree that these types of actions and the outcome. Central Division detectives and officers, as well as every member of this department, will continue to work to reduce the amount to 2,000 increase of about 10% in terms of calls for service involving road rage incidents on our roadways. Well, there's no indication that any of safe tips. Do not engage in arguments with other motorists. It is simply not worth it. Make sure you are courteous.
At this point in time, we are going to open it up to questions from our media partners. And before we get started, once we have one speaker up here, please have your questions reserved for that speaker, just to allow a more smooth run of show for us. And if you would, just use that raise your hand function now.
Morgan Francis, Queen City News.
Ms. Morgan Francis, Queen City News.
Hi, yes, thank you for taking my question and condolences to Ethan's family. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that there were other road rage incidents, one involving a BB gun. Does that road rage incident also involve a CATS bus?
Okay, we're going to bring up Captain Koch to elaborate on that a little bit more. And again, to our media partners, once we have Captain Koch up here, let's have all those questions for the captain at that time. Captain.
Morgan, no. The only incident involving a CATS bus was the incident involving Mr. Rivera today. The other incidents that I discussed and mentioned in the Central Division involved unsuspecting citizens, people walking down the streets when people took umbrage with that and either shot BB guns, paintball guns, or pointed firearms at our citizens.
Deshaun Brown, WSOC.
Deshaun Brown, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Captain. I wanted to ask what information you have at this point regarding the circumstances before the shooting. This is involving Ethan Rivera, who was killed.
I'll turn that over to Captain McNally.
Hi, so the question was the circumstances that happened before that led up to the shooting. At this time, we are very early in our investigation. We are working with CATS to obtain video of all of the incidents. And so all we're prepared to say at this point is that there was a road rage incident between that other driver and the CATS bus. The specifics of that, we are still working out to determine exactly how that came out. And we hope to be able to give more information in the next day or so regarding that.
Jonathan Limehouse, The Observer.
Jonathan from The Observer.
Hey guys, again I want to say condolences to the Rivera family and everything. I wanted to ask, this might be for Mr. Lewis, but I wanted to ask if the city planned on doing anything for Ethan Rivera, as he died on duty, in the line of duty, essentially.
Thank you for that question. We are working, we've reached out to Mr. Rivera's family, and we are ascertaining the next level of services that we can provide to his surviving family members. And so we are working with the Rivera family to develop those details, and those conversations will continue.
Glenn Counts, WSSC.
Glenn Counts, how are you, sir?
Doing okay. How are you?
Doing well, sir.
I wanted to ask, and certainly not to blame Mr. Rivera in any way, but can you state whether he engaged with the suspects in any way? If he honked the horn, was there any kind of an argument or anything like that?
Well, and I can field that question. Those are details at this point are part of that active investigation that our detectives continue to really sort through. And again, they've been working on this tirelessly since Friday, but that detail is part of that ongoing investigation.
Marvin Beach from WCCB.
Marvin Beach, go ahead, sir.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking my question. Wanted to ask John Lewis with CATS, just, what safety measures are in place for bus drivers who come across this situation? And, what would you tell your bus drivers to do if they end up in a road rage situation with a driver like in this case? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. There are a number of things that we have implemented from a transit standpoint. All of our vehicles in our fleet are outfitted with the latest in high definition technology, both from a video and an audio standpoint. So anything that happens in and around our vehicles, we feel that we have very good access to the full line of activities and information. In regard to our employees, our operators and team members, we continue to provide top level of training in regard to de-escalation tactics and how to try and de-escalate these kind of incidents, not just with the traveling public, but also with other members on and off the vehicle. Lastly, we will continue to reach out to our colleagues in the industry, see if there are any other best practices that may be out there that we could develop to enhance the safety of our operators and our passengers on board our vehicles.
Jess Perry, WCNC.
Jas Perry with WCNC.
Okay. I have Sarah from WFA.
Sarah with WFAE.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I was wondering, this is a CATS question, so maybe for Mr. Lewis. Is there data available on how many of these kinds of instances and acts of violence are recorded against CATS drivers? Do you all keep track of that kind of data? Is that public information that we could have as far as seeing if this violence is increasing over the years? Just kind of wondering if you track it and how you track it.
Thank you. We do keep track of all types of data in regard to safety and security incidents on our buses, our trains, and CATS facilities. That is something that our communication staff could get you that information. If you would be so kind to reach out to our staff, we'll make sure that we get you the information that you're looking for.
Sean Brown, WSSC.
Ms. Brown, WSOC.
Yes, my question was actually similar. I'm curious, anecdotally, how often are you hearing from drivers who express concerns for their safety, and how recently?
Okay. Mr. Lewis.
So I think there are several facets of that question. Number one, over the last couple of years, we've been dealing with the issues surrounding the pandemic. That has been an ongoing conversation with our employees, our operators, and the rest of our frontline employees. But unfortunately, violence in regard to our bus operators is not a new issue. It's not a new issue for CATS, and it's not a new issue for public transit. One of the things that over the last couple of years, working with our bus operators, we have installed barriers in the operator cab. Now, those barriers are not bulletproof, but it is an added layer of protection that helps give operators a sense of security from some types of physical altercations that may occur on board the vehicle. As I mentioned earlier, we will continue to reach out to our colleagues in the industry to search out and see if there are any other best practices or technologies that we could implement here in CATS. The safety of our operators and our passengers is our #1 priority.
I'm going to try Jess with WCNC one more time.
Jess, we're going to try you again with WCNC.
Hello, thank you for that. For Mr. John Lewis, I just heard about the use of undercover cops in the past, or I don't know if there's something that's being done. Is there any plans to, if it's not happening now, to have law enforcement, on buses, or to increase law enforcement in the, working in the surrounding bus area and so forth? And if you're also using undercover cops on buses? That's my one question. And second question, did CMPD's real-time crimes division capture the shooting on video from any cameras in the streets of Uptown? That's my second question.
Okay, and I'll speak to your second question first, then we'll bring Mr. Lewis up here. So in reference to the Real-Time Crime Center, as we've spoken about in previous messages to our community members, there are a number of cameras throughout the jurisdiction, and that is something that the Real-Time Crime Center is constantly monitoring. But again, in this particular case, we're so early on in the investigation, and these detectives are working hard to try to do their due diligence to uncover every rock. Those are details of the case that we're not going to get into as of yet, and those detectives keep looking into. Mr. Lewis, we'll bring you up with that first question. If you would repeat that question for Mr. Lewis so that he can make sure that he delivers on exactly what it is you're asking.
May I ask that the questioner repeat the question?
Hello, yes. I was wondering if undercover cops are being used on buses. If not, is there any plans to add or increase law enforcement on buses, or at the center, or anything like that?
Thank you. So CATS does employ, we contract with a third-party private provider, G4S, which provides security, both armed and unarmed security for our transit services and facilities. We also employ several CMPD officers to help add additional resources from a security standpoint. We also have relationships with the county sheriff's office in that regard. So in regard to your specific question about off-duty police officers, we do have off-duty. Undercover, we do have officers who are not in uniform, but your term of undercover is pretty specific, and I won't try to delve into a law enforcement term in that regard. But we do have safety and security, both armed and unarmed, through G4S for our services.
And I just want to add that leadership from the CMPD has a great working relationship with Mr. Lewis and his teams there. And so the CAT system is also an area that the CMPD is charged with protecting as well. And again, I thank Mr. Lewis for that ongoing relationship that we have with them. We do have one remaining question.
Jonathan Limehouse, The Observer.
Mr. Limehouse with The Observer.
Hey, I wanted to know how many passengers were on the bus at the time of the shooting, possibly.
And that's information that we've previously put out in our media releases. We did have a number of 4 people who were passengers on the bus, and none of those persons were injured. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating and, as always, helping us navigate through COVID-19 with this virtual press conference as we try to continue to reach the community in these times. Thank you.